Welcome, students, in the final phase of our series of lectures on Ode to the West Wind. And here we are going to study the fifth canto of 14 line, fifth and the final. So let us go through the lines, read the lines. Make me thy lyre, even as the forest is. What if my leaves are falling like its own? The tumult of thy mighty harmonies will take from both a deep autumnal tone. Sweet though in sadness, be thou spirit fierce, my spirit, be thou me impetuous one. Drive my dead thoughts over the universe like withered leaves to quicken a new birth, and by the incantation of this verse, scatter as from an unextinguished hearth ashes and sparks my words among mankind. Be through my lips to unawakened earth the trumpet of a prophecy. O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? So this is very important and truly romantic. Make me thy lyre, as we have seen in the previous section of the poem. The poet, in his sore need, appeals the west wind to make its comrade to him, and he wants to be like a wave, a leaf, a cloud lifted by the west wind so that he can share the mightiness, share the power and vigor and strength of the west wind. And that note continues in this section, and again here he appeals to the west wind to make himself as the lyre of the west wind, as though the west wind is playing a flute or lyre on its mouth. So he wants to be a lyre of the west wind. Make me thy lyre, even as the forest is, just as the forest is the lyre of the west wind, because with the waves of the west wind, fierce waves of the west wind, they create loud noise among the reeds or the trees in the forest. So the forest has become the lyre of the west wind. He spreads the message of the west wind. In the same manner, the poet wants to be the lyre of the whatever the message of the west wind is. He wants to be an instrument to spread that message of the west wind. What if my leaves are falling like its own? And he identifies his own deterioration or his own aging with the aging or deterioration or the falling of the leaves of the forest in its autumn. So he thinks that he is in his life in his autumn, and just like the forest is in its autumn while the leaves of the forest or the trees are falling. So he identifies himself with forest, and like forest he wants to be a lyre of the west wind. The tumult of thy mighty harmonies, and he wishes to create tumult of the mighty harmonies created or sung by the west wind, will take from both a deep autumnal tone, and by becoming a lyre, just like the forest is, he will produce deep autumnal tone, sweet though in sadness, and that deep autumnal tone, where, while this will be a melancholic note which will be produced in his autumn, but that melancholic tone is so sweet and soothing, will be so sweet and soothing, and for Shelley always sadness or melancholy is the sweetest, as in his Skylark he has also said, our sweetest songs are those that tell of saddest thought. So, this sadness or autumnal tone or melancholic tone will be sweet though in sadness. Be thou, spirit fierce, my spirit, and he wishes that the spirit of the west wind, which is fierce and powerful, be his spirit, and be thou me, impetuous one, and he wants to be as impetuous, as powerful as the spirit of the west wind is. So he wants to mingle himself with the west wind to gain that power to bring reform in the society, so that he can fight against the all orthodoxies and man-made norms. That's why he seeks for such power. Let us see, drive my dead thoughts over the universe like withered leaves to quicken a new birth. So, just as in the first part, the west wind has driven away the withered leaves to quicken a new birth, just as those dead leaves could have been used as a manure, as a fertilizer. So, he wants or wishes his dead thoughts to be served as a manure to bring a change, to produce some sort of newness, to become a fertilizer. His thoughts will become a fertilizer, just like the dead leaves quicken a new birth and used as a manure. And by the incantation of this verse, scatter, and he wishes that by the incantation of this verse of his message of through this poem, scatter, he wishes that you, the west wind, scatter as from an unextinguished hearth ashes and sparks my words among mankind. He thinks that he is in his autumn in his life, and his thoughts are now considered to be dead thoughts, and these dead thoughts are likened to the ashes and sparks which have remained in hearth after the fire has burnt, and it has got some layers of ashes and sparks. So these thoughts, his thoughts are like those ashes and sparks which does not have fire, but still they have some potential to create fire, potential to bring change. So he wants his thoughts to be scattered just like ashes and sparks are scattered my words among mankind. So, if his words can be scattered with the power of the west wind, and not only scattered, but finding the power of the west wind, they may again burn, they may again get fire, they may again can be kindled. So his thoughts and his ideas can be rekindled by the power of the west wind be through my lips to unawakened earth, and they can be an instrument to awaken the mankind which is unawakened. So he wants to awaken the mankind by his thoughts, and for this he wants or seeks help from the powerful west wind, the trumpet of a prophecy. So, this west wind will become the trumpet of a prophecy, and that prophecy is he wants to convey to the mankind that you should always be hopeful and optimistic. O wind, he addresses the west wind that if winter comes, can spring be far behind? Every time when there is darkness or bad times, there is a ray of hope always present there. And after every winter or the every season which is harsh and death like, there is another spring which is bound to come, means always hope is there which will undoubtedly come. So he wants to send the message to the mankind that the times can be dark, but after that darkness of the times, there will be light, and there is always a ray of hope. So, this great message of optimism is here. Even after he was in his sore need and he was suffering, and all the tortures and turmoils of life were there, still he is hopeful that once the world will recognize the importance of his thoughts, and they will feel hopeful, and they will be hopeful, and they will be free from all the clutches, all the shackles, all the tortures and turmoils or man made norms, and there will be happiness everywhere and forever. So, with this note of optimism, the poet ends, and the resolution or the solution of the problem is always there in being hopeful. We understand this thing by the final section or throughout the poem. So, students, try to interpret more and more. Try to find what symbols, similes, comparisons, and metaphors the poet has used, and how through these devices he has conveyed his thoughts in a very beautiful manner. How the tarja rima, the rhyme scheme, is here used, how these five sections are intricated and connected with each other, and how they are separately divided like separate sonnets, and how they are bounded by the imagery, by the words, by the thoughts with each other. So try to establish all those connections, and try to interpret at home. Then we shall meet in our next class with new poem and a new poet. Thank you very much.